I'm sorry. I have a little bit of an unorthodox request because tomorrow is Veterans Day. Could we just stand and recognize and silent reflection of veterans? Is that possible?
Of course.
Thank you. Tomorrow is Veterans Day, and today is the birthday of the United States Marine Corps. May we please have a moment of silent reflection for the sacrifices made for those people in the names of the ideal democracy of, by, and for the people. Thank you.
Thank you everyone for coming. My name is Katie Cody. I'm from the Governor's Office. I'm one of the staffers on the Common Core Task Force. This is our last night of regional listening sessions. We have done 6 to date. We have 3 going on around the state tonight. We're happy you're here. With me I have Carrie Remus and Tim Kremer from our task force, and I'll let them introduce themselves when I finish. The run of show will be, we have numbered seats. We'll go in order of the people who signed up. It was first come, first served. Everyone will have 3 minutes. We do have a hard stop of 2 hours. So the reason we went to 40 is 40 times 3 minutes is 120 minutes. So, we're not going to yank you off of the stage, but please be aware that you will cut into your colleagues and friends' time if you do go over. So we encourage you to please be respectful of the clock, which is being handled in the back, and you will be able to see from where you're standing at the podium. If you do run out of time, have no fear. You can submit written testimony to the envelope that's out in the front. We also have our website that's being monitored daily, and we're receiving constant updates, and that's being shared with the task force members on testimony and comments and feedback. Without further ado, I'd like Carrie and Tim to introduce themselves, and we will get started.
Well, thank you for coming tonight. As I was driving here from Rochester, I had a panic attack and realized that I was the only one on the task force without an organization, an institution backing them. I'm here as an individual. I'm here as one of 2 parents. My other parent, Sam Radford, is an elected parent leader. I'm not, and it's something I want to say up front. I am a mother with very high expectations of my daughter and of my school district. And over the last 10 years, I've been very vocal about the state having high expectations for all children, which is why I'm here, I think. If I have a bias, it's the bias that comes from being the daughter of a public school teacher and union organizer. My dad taught me of the importance of self-agency, the importance of shared decision-making, and the importance of democratic processes in our public institutions. I strongly believe that those principles should apply to parents as well. So I'm here today for that reason. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Tim Kremer. I'm the Executive Director of the New York State School Boards Association. I've been in that position since 1998. We're an organization that represents most of the school boards in the state. We are advocates. We provide a lot of information to the elected officials at the local level, do a lot of leadership training, development, and consulting services. Because this task force was formed, I wrote a letter to the governor and said, I think that somebody who represents school boards should be on the task force, and I was accepted on. That was my end. It was just as simple as that. I have no other inside relationship. But I am very proud to work in this capacity. This is my 3rd session of this nature, and it's very important for you to understand that our job here is simply to listen and learn. I'm going to take copious notes, which I'm going to have transcribed and handed in to the appropriate people. I'm not here to judge, I'm not here to debate. I really want to be that person who is going to take the information that you have to share with us and make sure it gets in the right hands. Our hope is that eventually all of the information that we collect will be gathered together. Task force members are going to look over this very carefully. And believe me, we come from all different walks of life and all different places in the education world. I think it's going to be a very rich discussion, and our plan is to try to come up with a set of recommendations that we will hand over to the governor and his staff, and hopefully that will become legislative initiatives that are satisfactory to as many people as possible. That's what we're attempting to do here, and your input will be helpful tonight. So thank you for coming, and we look forward to hearing from you. we get the clock too. Okay, all right.
So you guys have it.
I know at what I was at before, I was impressed with the size of that clock. You can't miss that clock. The first person up is Phil Cleary from NYSUP.
My name is Phil Cleary. I'm a classroom teacher, a full-time classroom teacher at one of New York's last 4410 preschools in the North Syracuse Central Schools. I have 24 years in the classroom. I'm certified to teach birth through 21 special ed, elementary education, and oddly enough, business education. I'm here tonight because I'm very happy that this opportunity is being made available to the people of New York, for parents and teachers and community members to talk about the thing that is most important to them, which is, of course, our children. My mother always said, if you make your bed, you have to sleep in it. And I'm here tonight to speak out against the governor who makes his bed and refuses to sleep in it. That over and over, we've seen good tenets of teaching and education turned into something that is not good for our children. The good things that are part of Common Core, high standards, which we all want for our children, consistency in curriculum and delivery, which are things we want for our kids. We want them to have high quality, and we want it to be portable so that children can learn no matter where they happen to go and stay on task. But the plan that our governor has rolled out and wants everybody else to sleep in is a botched plan and rollout of Common Core. And I believe very strongly that this is a way to ultimately weaken public education in New York State, which is the greatest equalizer and opportunity provider we have for our students and for our society. A botched plan that includes over-testing, underfunding, squelches teacher creativity through the APPR plan, takes the joy out of learning for our kids, confuses and frustrates parents, and ultimately makes us all frustrated, weaker, and angry about what's happening. It's wonderful, if you can say there's something wonderful in this, is that parents see, even more so, the hard work that their children and their children's teachers are doing, that they want to become more involved, they want to understand exactly what's happening for public education in New York, and they want to be involved and see it make better. I would like to take the time I have available to me to talk about testing. And I'd like to remind the folks on the panel, as well as the governor and legislators, that testing is in fact a good thing. Teachers like testing. We invented it. We've always wanted it because we want to inform our instruction and help our students, because that's our job. For my students and for any other teacher, we want to test because we want to know how our students are doing. We want to know what things they are missing. We want to differentiate instruction to meet the different needs of our kids. And we want to do it, most importantly, in real time and for the reasons we have. I just see my time ran out. It's all stuff. Thank you so much for your time.
Am I supposed to start the clock? Is somebody else starting that?
Yeah, no, that's for you.
Okay.
I got some.
All right. I'm not watching the clock. You're going to have to have it. Yeah. Excuse me. Debbie Dermady. Sorry about that. And you're from Thousand Island Central School District.
I have copies for each of you because I may run over.
You should. You have 3 minutes.
Yes, I know. Isn't it interesting? Some of this is a lesson plan that I taught last week, and I think it was important for you to see. I want to let all of you know I am not here to represent the Thousand Island Central School District. I am here to represent myself as a teacher and the things that I have seen going on. I am a wife, a parent of 3 with each of our children involved as teachers or with coaching, a grandparent of 6, a delegate for New York State United Teachers, political action chair for our local Thousand Islands Education Association, but most of all, I am here as a 5th grade teacher in the Thousand Islands Central School District at Gardeno Elementary School in Clayton.
I'm a 5th grade teacher who is not happy with New York State messing around with our public education. I am a member of Lace to the Top, New York State Alliance for Public Education and Badass Teachers, as well as many other groups I have found to help me as a devalued teacher get through this disaster called Common Core. I'm a veteran teacher who has taught since 1983, for the last 24 years of my career in public education. I'm a qualified, permanently certified New York State teacher for pre-K through 6th grade. And I asked New York State, why is New York State asking me to teach out of my certification? Now that the Common Core standards have come into our schools for the last 5 years, top-down teaching, not bottom to top, as Bloom's taxonomy refers to, New York State has teachers who aren't certified. I'm a 5th grade teacher teaching material 2 grade levels above what I am certified to teach. Take a look at the 5th grade standards that ask to have 10-year-olds cite evidence, paraphrase, and infer particular information. Students also must read 2 grade levels above 5th grade with required readings, while some are only at 3rd or 4th grade reading levels. This, in my opinion, is abuse. The text I used the other day, chosen by New York State in their Common Core Module 1, was entitled Teaching Nepalis to Read, Plant, and Vote. I have attached for you what my 10-year-olds had to read. They had to read something about a person in Nepal by the name of Vishnu, who was married when he was 9 years old, and then married again to his second wife when he was 15. He helped out on his farm, and so on. Vishnu had 2 wives. He had 25 children between them. And what I need to say about this is they had to look at this, and I have it attached for you, as well as the 30 articles of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and see which articles were upheld or challenged in this text. The standards are asking for my 10-year-olds to comprehend text I know even 7th or 8th grade students would have trouble with. So I ask you, what's the point? Is the point to have 70% of our students fail every year? Yes, anytime you have less than 50% of something, that means failure, even though New York State likes to call it partially proficient. Over the last 5 years, creative writing has suffered, spelling has suffered, reading for enjoyment, imagination, and creativity have all suffered. Our kids do not even have basic math skills. They need to become productive members of society. A colleague mentioned to me the other day, 2nd and 3rd graders are having trouble with telling time and using math as they are not an important part of the curriculum. Another mentioned how tough 3rd through 5th grade math was, and she never realized it until she had to teach it. If you're trying to judge things through rose-colored glasses, don't. It's not a pretty picture.
I think your time is up. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Could you finish?
We now have Bill Dermody. Dermody. Okay, Bill.
By the way, Debbie's my wife. Good evening, everyone. My name is Bill Dermody. I am the parent of 3 children, and I have 6 grandchildren, 2 caught up in this Common Core nightmare. Their names are Clayton, who lives in Maryland, and Madison, who lives in Massachusetts, and soon to be one other one in this nightmare, Madison's brother, Leo. Common Core nightmare must end immediately. Common Core means to me 4 things: high-stakes testing, APPR, student data mining, and the modules. I realize every school district does not use the modules, but at my school district, the Thousand Island Central School, they are mandatory. Approximately 70% of New York State students have failed the Common Core, ELA, and math tests 3 years in a row. We're losing a whole generation of students. How many more years are we going to wait before we end this nightmare? Let's not forget the architect of the Common Core, David Coleman, is not a teacher. And yet he has changed education as we know it today. We need to scrap Common Core in its entirety and let educators write the standards. It's time we tell Governor Cuomo and his hedge fund billionaires we are not going to let them privatize our public schools. New York parents are becoming more aware every day how harmful the ELA and math tests are, and they are refusing to let their children take the test. If this harmful testing continues, we will have 500,000 opt-outs next year. Also, Mr. Kremer, it's time you and the New York State School Boards Association supported the students, teachers, and parents, and not Arnie Duncan, Governor Cuomo, Commissioner Ilya, and the State Education Department. Thank you.
Dan Walters.
First and foremost, Common Core stinks. It's a complete travesty. Travesty meaning false, absurd, and a distorted representation of something. And that distorted representation is an education that once was great in this country. Americans have achieved great things without the likes of Common Core. 1903, the Wright brothers, Ohio, first in flight. Without the likes of Common Core. In 1969, the United States was the first on the moon, without the likes of Common Core. In 1908, the Model T Ford was produced, putting millions of Americans behind the wheel of a car, without the likes of Common Core standards. And you have the cell phone, the internet, the submarine, and so on. All of these achievements is what made America the greatest country on this planet without an education shoved down the American children's throats. I laugh when I hear we have to compete with the world because we are falling behind. It's scary, right? Are you people serious? Have you looked around the world lately? China's economy is on the brink of collapse. The Middle East is on fire. Russia's economy has collapsed. America does not need an education to keep up with this world. I served in the United States Marine Corps. And as I walked and I've seen around the world, I've walked those streets, I've seen kids begging for money and help from us, okay? Excuse me. Common Core needs to go. It's a failure. When I go back to some of the great achievements of this country, those achievements is what made success in this country. Because at some point, this success of what the Wright brothers has done has failed, okay? It was worked on again and again until it reached 100% success rate. Well, how the heck can a curriculum like Common Core be put out there for our children with no proven success? And when it fails, and it will fail, we won't get the chance to start over like the Wright brothers did, okay? No, when it fails, we have failed a generation of kids, and we will not be able to fix them. And that is just sad beyond words. Common Core needs to go because rushing to look like China and the rest of the world would lead to a loss of values. Values traditionally celebrated by American education. And those values are creativity and drive. Those values is what that helped make America the most prosperous and advanced nation in the world, not a fixation on Common Core and standardized testing.
Next up is Gerald Masters.
I'm from Geneva. A little over 77 years ago, our fathers brought forth to this nation a new public school system, conceived in local control and dedicated to the proposition that all students are entitled to a public education. Now we are engaged in a great civil argument, testing whether our state, or any state, so conceived and so dedicated, can long endure free and strong. We are met here in a great forum to test those arguments. We have come here to petition our government and redress the grievances to teaching and learning that Common Core has accelerated. It is altogether fitting and proper that we do this. But in a larger sense, we cannot petition, we cannot redress, we cannot undo the harm that we've done to school children who have been casually cheated by men in blue suits ever since our abdication of the local control of teaching and learning. The sacrifices of those children and their parents who have endured our misguided reaction to the 1983 report, A Nation at Risk, will remain permanent testimony to our unforgivable failure since No Child Left Behind to petition, redress, and undo the harm of the test and punish educationists' reform agenda. The world may little note nor long remember what we say here, but it can never forget what we have done to New York's students and parents. It is for us who work in public education, rather, to be dedicated here to the great task remaining before us, that from students we've cheated and parents we've lied to about testing rather than teaching, we take increased devotion to the cause for which they gave time and treasure. That we here highly resolve that those stakeholders shall not have sacrificed authentic learning in vain. That this state, guided by teachers and parents, shall return to the forgotten conditions of teaching and learning, and that public education of the people, by the people, and for the people shall not, beyond next year's test result, refusals, be sacrificed on the altar of the Common Core.
I'd like to thank you for the 3 minutes. My children have been living this nightmare for 3 years. This feels like deja vu. I've been speaking about the issues with Common Core for years now to no avail. Yet here I am, again, speaking to a so-called listening session with an appointed task force. What will really change? A new name? Slightly less testing? There is no way to fix this. Common Core is copyrighted. The only solution is full repeal of Common Core. We need to end it. New York State's previous standards were superior to Common Core, and our state was in the process of developing new, better standards prior to Race to the Top. Those lost standards are what the children of New York deserve. That's why I'm here. That's why I diligently fight day after day, year after year. For the children of New York, for the future. Childhood happens only once in a lifetime. Our kids can't get a do-over. If this social experiment fails, what will happen? What will become of this generation? Will they be known as the lost generation? The victims of Common Core? My own children are attending the very school I graduated from, yet I can't say they are receiving the solid quality education I was fortunate to have. My teachers had the freedom and flexibility to teach us how to think, not what to think. Lessons were developmentally appropriate, yet challenging. I graduated with honors, went on to college, and am a successful business owner and private teacher today. I wouldn't be where I am today without the great teachers and programs at my public school. Do the children of today not deserve at least the same opportunities to learn and grow that we all had? Shouldn't our highly qualified teachers have the flexibility to develop young minds and help our impressionable students reach their full potential without the constant pressure of meeting each standard at the appropriate time and without having to teach to the test? I want students to be taught in a way that allows them to be successful in life, not just on a meaningless test and not just so they can be hired as an employee. I want all children to have an education experience that allows them to reach beyond tests and just getting any job. I want them to be given the tools necessary to develop lifelong skills, to go above and beyond a minimum standard. I want them to grow, to learn, to dream, to achieve without limitations. If you are truly listening and making decisions based not on data points and budgets, but on morals and ethics, you will make a difference in an entire generation of children by ending Common Core and giving them the superior education they deserve. Thank you.
Jerry McKenna.
Teacher of 21 years, and I teach at Shenango High School. I'm an Algebra 1 teacher. My discussion is a little different. In Algebra 1, we teach a very rigorous Algebra 1 course now. It is not the Algebra 1 that we grew up with. It is Algebra 2 taught to freshmen. Here are just some of my issues. Our conversion chart. A raw score of 20 out of 86 points converts the grade to a 55. This means they know 23% of the material and they're getting an IEP diploma with that. A raw score of 30 converts to a 65%. A raw score of 60 converts to a 75. That's actually a 70. I'm sorry, I messed up there. In the middle there, the 30 that converts to a 65, that means they actually know 35% of the material and they're passing the course. So then they're going on to geometry and on to trigonometry and they're not prepared for the course and they're falling apart as juniors because they haven't been passing the course actually. They're moving on without actually truly knowing the material. They should be held back. They should actually be forced to know 65% of the material like we all did as we graduated. Then at the upper end, it's not even the upper, it's the middle. A 70, which converts to an 80 on the state scale, actually rounds their grade down. They actually earned an 81. So anyone at that point, 70 points to 86 points out of 86, their grade rounds down. So we're penalizing these kids that work really hard all year, kill themselves to get an 80, and their grade is rounded down. We're giving 30 plus points to the bottom, and we're rounding them up. But we're penalizing the middle. We're not even penalizing the upper kids, we're penalizing the middle. We're penalizing kids to make it look like your data fits and that everybody is passing this exam when they're truly not. I don't understand why we're penalizing the student. It breaks my heart to give a kid an 80 when they earned an 81 or more. Just also for reference, this didn't happen in the integrated exam of the previous exam. The conversion chart didn't do that, nor does the current geometry Common Core conversion chart. It does not round down. I don't understand why the algebra does, why we're penalizing these Algebra 1 students. I do know. The state wants it to make it look like everybody's passing this exam. It's to make their data look good. But in the end, it's watering down our math department. These kids should not be passing. They should be repeating the course. They should be learning the material. And the kids that actually score their breakpoint score of 80 should earn their 80. They should not round down. And I guess, I'm out of time. That's it. Thank you.
Judy Griffith. Hi, my name is Judy Griffith, and I have 3 children that attend the West Genesee Central School District in Camillus. I have 2 daughters, 7th and 8th grade, and a son that is a senior this year. And back in 2013, right before the state tests were given, I had been on social media and started having a panic attack. And went into school the day of the tests and said, my children are not taking this test. That year, 2013, my children were 2 of 8 children in my district that refused state tests. In 2014, there were 119 ELA refusals and 132 math refusals. In 2015, we went from 119 in ELA to 357 refusals. In math, from 2014, we were 132, and in 2015, we had 471 math refusals. There were over 200,000 that refused state tests in grades 3 through 8. These spring assessments will be crippled by opt-out refusals all over the state, rendering the results absolutely worthless, just like the Common Core itself. 2016 tests are the same as last year by Pearson. Even better reason to refuse. Why take a test designed by a company fired by New York? Common Core are largely comprised of parents and parent groups. We did not get grants, nor do we want them. We want outstanding education for our children. We have nothing to gain by opposing something good for our own children and our children's education. We have their lives to lose if we fail to fight for them. Understand that test refusal is not about parents not wanting their kids to take tests. This is very much parents saying, we do not support the current reform agenda. At this point, it just needs to go away. We need full repeal. My kids will never get these lost years of education back, ever. Our kids are paying the price as they only experience their education a single time. Cuomo's Common Core Task Force website has a tab called Supporters, but there's no tabs for the opposing views or the testimonies for the sessions held around New York State. If grassroots folks did not record these sessions, there would be no record of them. Common Core needs to go. Thank you.
Andrew Martin. Good evening, my name is Andrew Martin and I'm a member of the Central Square School District Board of Education. I'm speaking tonight only for myself. On the state education website, it is clearly stated that one of the two principles in the review of the Common Core standards is to improve what already exists, don't start over. So I'd like to share a quick story with you. I had a friend build a house once. After many groups and hands stirred the proverbial pot, the house was up and the feedback was absolutely unanimous. Beautiful, exactly the way we intended it, on time and on budget. Now I should point out that all the feedback was from the designer, the architect, and the builder. After many months, I heard that my friend was doing a bunch of work on their house. You see, once they had moved in, they noticed things like power outlets in odd locations, room dimensions that didn't even allow furniture to fit in it, as well as cracks in the ceilings and the walls. So they started to take action. They ran power strips along the walls so cords would reach. They bought new furniture so it would fit in the spaces as they were designed. They spackled and painted the cracks in the walls and the ceilings. Sometime later, I asked my friend how the house was, and they said that things had gotten worse. You see, the foundation was never good to begin with, and the design was so bad that they just couldn't make it work. They had to tear it down and start over. That house is Common Core, built by people with all sorts of experience, but very little educational expertise. The oddly placed outlets are the tests, and expecting that moving those tests online are going to improve them is like running extension cords along the wall. You move the power from one place to another, but the design is still horrible. The cracks in the walls and ceilings represent the strain on parents, school boards, and students caused by a flawed design, flawed implementation, and an ever-moving target that, whether it is hit or not, does not measure success. The spaces that were built that didn't even allow furniture to fit in it, well, they represent the flawed attempt to hold teachers accountable to standards that have no basis in driving true educational outcomes. Let's talk about that cracking foundation. The cracking foundation, well, that represents our teachers themselves. Don't get me wrong, don't get me wrong. Our teachers are amazing. Common Core, that system, is driving the best and the brightest into other fields of work, where they can truly think, use their analytical skills to improve processes, and actually be treated as an integral part of the organization, to be treated as professionals instead of pawns. While always being the optimist, I asked my friend what they would do differently next time, and the response was this. We would be a part of the actual design of our house instead of just being asked to live in something that we didn't build. Well, I'm here to tell you that as you think of improving the house of Common Core, the teachers were not an integral part of the process. The design is bad and the foundation is flawed. Let our teachers teach. Mr. Bemis, Mr. Creamer, my message to Governor Cuomo is this. It is time to tear down Common Core. Thank you.
Because she's not sure what is expected of her. Who becomes frustrated because I, even though I'm a teacher, am unable to help her. Even with things that I can help my daughter with, it's difficult to do so without giving her the right answer. Why? Because it's developmentally inappropriate for a young child to be thinking and problem solving at the level that she's expected to do so. Notice I didn't share my grade with you about my daughter. That's because Common Core curriculum is developmentally inappropriate in all grades. The struggles that I have
with my daughter are struggles that many, many parents have with their children. Second, I'm also a parent of a child with special needs. My son, like many special needs child, is very bright, and he has psychological scores to show it, not just the parent saying so. So what's the problem? Again, developmental inappropriateness. But that's not all. Common Core does not take into account that children learn differently, at different paces, and in different ways. My child is holding his own, but if an appropriate curriculum was given to him, he would be excelling. Writing is a big issue for my son, and it is impacting him in his best subject, math. Why? Because he knows how to do math in his head. He can see 8 times 2, and he knows the answer is 16. He has meltdowns because he isn't allowed to just write 16, but has to draw pictures, circles, lines, whatever to show how he got the answer. Here's the thing. He has the thinking skills to figure it out, but he struggles with getting his thoughts onto paper because of his disabilities, not because he hasn't practiced enough. This doesn't happen just in math, but in all subjects, and Common Core doesn't adjust for that. Lastly, I want to talk about a piece that is not usually discussed, and that's early childhood education. I am an early childhood educator. I operate a program of children from infants through preschool. This is where the problem is. Parents are freaking out, for lack of better terms, that their children are not going to be ready for kindergarten. They have decided that, well, then they need to get ready earlier. Programs have adjusted their curriculum to meet the needs of what parents want and fear that those parents will go elsewhere. This has resulted in toddlers sitting at circle time, 2-year-olds, 18-month-olds, sitting at circle time looking at flashcards of letters and numbers and shapes and colors. This has resulted in preschoolers learning not only just how to read and write their name, but reading and writing sight words that should be taught in kindergarten. It's developmentally inappropriate, just like it's developmentally inappropriate to be reading and writing in kindergarten, period. In my program, I let the parents go elsewhere. My toddlers will not sit at circle time. They will not practice reading and writing in preschool. They will learn their social skills. They will be ready for kindergarten. They will learn social skills, which is the most important thing in early childhood. They will learn to attend to teachers, to sit for up to 15 minutes at circle time, to do hands-on appropriate activities. Thank you.
John Sheffield.
Pretty dangerous to be this. I'm John Sheffield. I'm here tonight as a parent and a citizen. I'm also an educator of 25 plus years. Never in that 25 years have I witnessed educators, boards of ed, and districts threaten not to tell the truth to parents and communities until now. First, I'd like to address some of the more high-profile task members that aren't here this evening. Mr. Parsons, I failed to see how being in the Providence Equity Partners Group and being the former chairman of the board for Citigroup Bank qualifies him to discuss public education, let alone chair this task force. Furthermore, I believe there is a direct conflict of interest. Regarding Ms. Weingart, she has stated that Common Core was pushed out too fast, yet in Albany on June 8, 2013, she was clearly the one doing the pushing in the presence of over 10,000 witnesses. Her public teaching schools experience is minimal. Lastly, she lost credibility as soon as she took money from Gates. A little bit too much about hypocrisy. To Ms. Elia, in the John King forums, online, in emails, letters, and calls to the regents, the governor, NICED, and the legislators that numbered in the thousands upon thousands, the public made it clear it was not for private money in public education. It was not for high-stakes testing. It was not for Common Core. This message was made clear on multiple occasions, including the last budget process. And the people like this were totally ignored. Even the two of you, to the best of my knowledge, have never taught in a public classroom, nor have the proper background to do so. So now we are to believe that this group, unlike its predecessor, is going to really listen? Quite honestly, the very fact that you were appointed by Governor Cuomo detracts from any credibility you may have had, and I hope that's wrong. But just in case, here's a reminder of some of the general Common Core issues that I have listened to. Little or no supportive research, unsupported claims of college and career readiness,
using manipulated data that does not compare apples to apples to claim we are falling behind on international tests, ignoring poverty rates completely. A false claim that the standards were internationally benchmarked. In New York State, a growth formula that has been proven to be invalid and unreliable, yet Governor Cuomo, in collusion with his big money donors, along with many regents and legislators, have purposely placed our children's education and public education in jeopardy by choosing to use such a severely flawed statistic. The governmental use of threats and extortion in the form of No Child Left Behind waivers and funding. Common Core was thrown together with little or no educator input by many people with almost zero background in education and childhood development, never piloted, never scrutinized by accepted practices and procedures, and thrust upon our nation's children in some grand experiment. All that being said, perhaps you can at least be honest enough to say to the parents it is their right to refuse the New York State assessments, period, and do so without threatening them or their schools. Lastly, the Common Core was so good as its proponents claim. It should have sold itself without threats, coercion, private investors, and certainly not need a task force. This is not about core implementation. It is a bad product for our nation and for the long period. Repeal it and everything associated with it.
Please don't wait to be called. Let's get the line moving. Go.
Frank House.
Good afternoon. Frank House, I'm an educator leader, and I've been in education for 43 years. I would like to commend the school districts and teachers who put the initiative in place after Race to the Top. They were given a task that was Herculean and did a phenomenal job. However, there were some problems with the implementation, and it's not the Common Core. Everybody calls the whole implementation the Common Core, when actually the Common Core is the standard. The problem with the initiative was the fact that the assessments were faulty. They were tied to the teacher evaluation, and that was a huge problem with it. And I'm afraid that we're going to throw the whole program out. It's like throwing the baby out with the bathwater. And there are also the growth scores, and I'm going to be very specific with that the APPR and the growth scores are very, very faulty in the initiative. And I think as we look at that, as the task force looks at specific things, they need to look particularly at those two parts of the initiative. And I'm not going to call it the Common Core, because to be Common Core is just the standards. And New York State has had standards ever since I've been into the education business. So I think that as we look at what goes on into this whole initiative, it's important that we break it down into the segments and parts that's part of this initiative, and understand that it's easy to say Common Core. Common Core is part of it. There's the whole initiative that goes with it, and we need to understand the whole component. Part of it is very, very bad. And we need to understand if we get rid of the Common Core standards, we need to replace them. There has to be standards in place. Thank you very much.
Katie Sedgwick? Close.
Good evening. My name is Katie Sojewicz. I am newly elected to the Syracuse City School Board. I am a former Syracuse City teacher, and now I teach here at OCC. Most importantly, though, I am a mother to 3 incredible children who all attend public school. I am speaking tonight for myself. I could talk to you about how these standards and the policies now attached to them are an assault on public education. I could talk to you about how our teachers in Syracuse are amazing and, in my opinion, highly effective, but how the teacher evaluations automatically set them up for failure. But due to time, I'm going to focus on one issue: testing. When you go to the Common Core State Standards Initiative website, the first thing that pops up are the words "preparing America's students for success." That may have been the intention in the beginning, but that is not what is happening now by any means. All we are doing now is preparing for tests. End of module tests, benchmark tests, and finally the state test. What do these tests tell us? Nothing. As parents, my husband and I are given a printout with a number on it months after the test is given. I get no breakdown to see where my child is struggling and where they have achieved mastery, and neither do their teachers. What use is that? For as long as these tests are used to evaluate teachers, for as long as the tests are not used as a true diagnostic tool, for as long as these tests are written by companies who are making a profit from our children, for as long as these tests are kept a secret, my children will not take them. And I now encourage everyone else to opt out. If you truly, the task force truly believes in reform and advancing public education, the test scores would not be used to evaluate teachers. The tests would be written and scored by teachers and not private companies. There would be more learning and less testing. This outrage that you hear tonight is not going away. I sincerely hope that you are listening and that you take our concerns and suggestions and make changes that are in the best interest of our kids. Thank you to everyone who came tonight to speak, and thank you for your time.
Good evening. My name is Jennifer Gaffney. I'm the K-12 principal at Sackett Harbor Central School, which is a small district in northern New York of about 450 students. I've been the principal at Sackett Harbor Central School for the last 9 years, and I've led my school community through the implementation of the Common Core, the new assessments, and the teacher and principal evaluations. I wish I could spend my time before you tonight sharing a profound and enlightening statement, maybe something you haven't already heard. However, I am sure that my stance will make for a continued monotony on your listening tours. I'm certain that what I'm about to share you have heard time and time again. It is my hope that this task force truly listens to the stakeholders this time before our educational system becomes too damaged. Let me make it clear, from my perspective, the Common Core learning standards are not necessarily the enemy. They're standards. Both the ELA and mathematics standards have forced educators to teach students how to develop a deeper understanding of content and apply content to open-ended problems. Raising the bar is and continues to be good for the children of Sackett Harbor Central School and for children across New York State. We all agree, however, that the implementation of the new standards and of the 3-8 assessments were rushed and lacked appropriate stakeholder input. That is certainly one of the central problems associated with our discontent. However, I contend that educators, parents, and other stakeholders are more concerned with the absolute ridiculousness of New York State's educational priorities right now. For instance, of most of the frustration. Students' learning and growth cannot be measured solely by these poorly constructed assessments. Further, do you realize that as a result of schools striving to meet the new standards, teachers now teach to a test more than ever before, and many of the other subject areas take a back seat. Subjects like social studies and science, not to mention handwriting, grammar, and character education have been pushed aside in order to focus on a test that we still have not come to understand. The development of the whole child requires more than just an emphasis on ELA and math. Let me read to you our district's mission statement. The Sackett Harbor Central School community is dedicated to educational excellence as we empower our students to embrace life's challenges with knowledge, character, and a commitment to learning as they become contributing citizens in the American democratic way of life. Producing skillful test takers and robots does not fit within this mission. With the remaining minute I have left, I want to tell you how to begin to fix these problems. First, disconnect the assessments with teacher and principal evaluations. The original goals and objectives by our governor and others proved to be completely ineffective. That would be the eye on the heady chart. The scores teachers and principals receive provide no opportunity to analyze students' achievement or one's own professional performance. They are essentially meaningless. I know that is not what was intended, but that is what has happened. Return the responsibility for teacher and principal evaluations back to where it belongs, locally elected Board of Education. Next, fund our schools appropriately so that we're able to continue to receive the professional development. Though in the era of the 2% tax cap, many schools have cut their PD resources. Let's keep that in mind. Finally, I urge you to listen, really listen. Don't just conduct these meetings around the state to keep constituents at bay. Those who choose to attend are devoted to the children of this state, and we want what's best for them. Thank you.
Lori Atkinson Griffin.
I'm Lori Atkinson Griffin, and since the
the inception of Common Core, I have written numerous letters, made hundreds of phone calls, met with my assemblyman, and worked on a NICET task force examining this topic. This is the draft of the NICET task force that needs to be looked at. It addresses this very issue, and it says everything these fine people are saying. Why isn't the task force looking at that? It's done. The work has been done already. When will New York State listen? Parents, teachers, and students have been trying to get you to listen since the origin of this ineffective rollout. Yet here we are again, but we're here because we care, so we will repeat this message until it's gone. We are hoping that now it will not fall on deaf ears. Since the beginning, the Common Core agenda was rapidly pushed through with little input from the stakeholders. We are now paying the price, and it has been a high cost. We have frustrated children, burned out teachers, angered parents, and you have created a climate of mistrust and animosity within school districts. When will New York State listen? I know that I am only supposed to address just Common Core, and Mr. House actually addressed this, so I'll address it to him as well. Since NICET and New York State lumped this whole acronymed mess together, it is now impossible to separate CC from APPR and HST. And unlike anything previously chosen as the latest fad in education, which we've rolled with in the past, many teachers can no longer just ride out this disgusting wave, even though some have attempted to doggy paddle through the rancid mire of messy modules, the standardized slime of state tests, and the constantly changing cut scores that were also addressed earlier. Teachers have always been resilient and flexible, but the final straw was tying our livelihoods to this debacle. Make no mistake that as dedicated professionals, we will continue to do what's best for our kids. We find ways. But the government interference due to corporate greed, ridiculous unfunded state ed mandates, and the collegial negativity that is now emerging due to Cuomo's little merit pay idea, which is rewarded based solely on a flawed system, is wanting me to know, when will New York State listen? Yes, I admit that some educators have said, we heard it here, oh, the standards aren't so bad. And of course, this mantra is the one that's repeated in the press. Some teachers say they're not so bad. But the minute you tie a nice fat bow around the whole stinking package and wrap it all together, you've destroyed any chance of fixing this mess. So as an English teacher, I can attest to the fact that once a term has a negative connotation, it's attached forever and there's no change. In fact, Common Core is now a verb, such as students and teachers are being cored to death. Your flawed, rushed implementation has made parents mistrust their districts. That's going to take years to fix. It has raised student anxiety to a level never seen before in education and driven out amazing teachers who can no longer teach test prep because they have a conscience. NICET, in conjunction with the government, has created a situation that will take years to fix. When will New York State listen?
Good evening, my name is John Kane. I'm a 17-year veteran of Copenhagen Central School. The school is rural and introduction in Lewis counties. I'm also the president of our local association. I'm also the president of the Northern Country Coordinating Council of Teachers. Most importantly, I'm the father of 2 young children. Just for the record, I'd like to give you my dimensions. 3 years ago, I was highly effective. 2 years ago, I was ineffective. And last year, once again, I was highly effective. The difference between those 3 years, I have no idea. If I reflect on it, my best year was probably the year I was ineffective. The biggest lament I have is that so many teachers, especially in our elementary and middle schools, are putting great lessons on the shelf. One of the nice things about being in a small rural school is that every once in a while you're called to do something that's outside of your certification area or your comfort zone. For me, that's been AIS in several elementary classrooms over the year, most recently 3rd grade. In those times, I've seen teachers put on great lessons, hands-on science experiments, physical activities, amazing writing, amazing artistic prompts. And in the time since we've had Common Core, I've seen so many teachers put those amazing lessons on the shelf. There simply isn't time. Math and ELA dominate the elementary school day. As a history teacher, this is of great concern to me. When I poll our elementary teachers, we find out that our elementary students are getting history once every 8, 9, 10 days, and science even less. We're also finding out that only about a quarter to a third of the Common Core state standards are actually being tested. Our teachers have caught on to this. They're adjusting their instruction. The problem with that is the tests have no real writing on them. Most of the writing prompts are simply regurgitation of what they have heard in a listening passage or what they have read. Like, writing is difficult to assess, and that's why they don't put it on the test. They want simple assessments where they can come up with a simple number. Writing, much like teaching, is an art. I fear for all of our students as we try to lock them into specific outcomes. There's no differentiation anymore. When I first got into teaching, everything was about differentiating. You had to differentiate instruction. You had to reach every student. You had to reach every class. Why is it now that we expect every student to reach the same point with all of their classmates at exactly the same time? It simply doesn't make sense. If you really want to know the cure for Common Core, I've got it for you, and I will give it to you. It's free, and most of the people here who are involved in education know it. Remove the incentive for profit from public education and watch how many businesses, people flee their support of Common Core. Take that money that we save on Common Core and use it for early intervention. Attack poverty, and you attack the only educational problem we truly have in New York. Put that money into getting resources for literacy and health care when children are not even yet in school. And for Pete's sake, let's make sure that we promote our pre-Ks and our junior pre-Ks throughout the state. That is the solution that New York needs.
And stop.
My name is Adam Stott. I'm a husband and a parent of 4 boys. I'm also a teacher, high school math teacher. So I can attest to the lady who was talking about the scale scores. They're a mess. They're a huge mess. In the past, our eldest son opted out in 2013 and 2014. He was one of the first ones in my district to opt out, our kids, my wife. Painfully, my wife and I watched as the curriculum in my son's elementary school was gutted by modules. Couldn't take it anymore. We decided to pull all 4 of our boys out of the school that we loved and homeschool. We were in our 2nd year of homeschool. I came here to share my personal feelings. Governor Cuomo created a committee back in 2012, the Reform Commission. And as a parent, I've seen him come from it. And I do not have a lot of faith in the Common Core Task Force. I think you two may do a lot of work. I think you may hand it off to the governor. I think you may just toss it and not listen to anyone. Parent to parent, Mrs. Ramis, I think the governor is just using you. Get the parent on the committee. Mr. Kramer, my first experiences with your association was when the administration at my school tried to bully my wife and I out of opting out our kids by using how to handle test opt-out requests. They gave us the document that you sent out to the boards, which I would imagine was passed on to the administration. So I don't have faith, I'm sorry to say I don't have faith in your association just because I already feel like I know where your ties lie. The Common Core has been a mess, but it has been a twisted blessing in the respect that has magnified the true problems in education. Over testing, APPR, and in general, poor leadership across the state, ranging from administrators who do as they're told, to my leaders at NICET and APT, who are afraid to really step up and take a lead and be Moses on top of it that we need. And also, it has shown the governor who is sticking his nose in business where it doesn't belong. Teachers in New York State are awesome, and we should be allowed to be awesome, and he's not allowing us to be awesome. And I speak to you all with this. Opting out is the key. I do not think the governor's going to listen to even this task force. And that's, I don't know about you, but I'm done begging, I'm done pleading, I'm just going to opt out. I mean, my kids are opted out of public education, but I will continue to support my nieces and nephews who continue to opt out of public school. Stage 1 is opt out until they listen. And stage 2, when they start listening, then we bring them our ideas. Thank you.
Good evening. Standards. You talk about standards. The definition of standards is an idea or thing used as a measure, norm, or model of comparative evaluations. The federal government, the comparative evaluations never occurred with Common Core standards, never tested and proven, simply shoved into the minds of our children without our consent. The federal government dangled a golden carrot, and the state's politicians jumped at the opportunity like thieves in the night, literally. But the parents are seeing the evidence now. I'm a mother of 3. My oldest is now 21, and my daughter is 6. When my son attended Union Springs School District, he did very well. Teachers were very diligent. The faculty and staff did an amazing job of helping my son soar. My son is now enrolled in college and working towards his robotics engineering degree. Not too shabby, eh? 2 years after my son graduated, our daughter started kindergarten, and my district changed dramatically. No snacks, no rest, minimal recess, excessive worksheets, and homework. The principal explaining to me that there was just no time for those things due to the strict Common Core standards. Kindergarten? Are you kidding me? By the way, Union Springs School District's proficiency was at 87% the year before Common Core was implemented. This past spring, 37%. The principal explained to me that our children were very entitled, and Common Core, and I quote, will take that entitlement right out of them. Seriously? This is the rhetoric you're feeding our schools? How dare you? We pulled our daughter 3 weeks into the school year. Why? Between racist homeworks and abusive measures to accomplish these disgusting standards, my husband and I had enough. To the politicians that sign the fate of our children away for a fast buck, you disgust me. There is no fixing Common Core, there is no renaming Common Core, or a revamp of Common Core. I demand the full repeal of Common Core and the removal of all federal intrusion. We, the parents, demand our schools back and the federal government to stay out of our local concerns immediately. And in regards to standards, our politicians' standards have been comparatively evaluated, and they are nothing short of completely disappointing and pathetic. Stop federal-led education right now.
When I read that there was another listening tour, I rolled my eyes. It was Groundhog Day again. I thought, now you're here, appointed by the governor, we have a task force, not to be confused with a commission that might conjure up the Moreland debacle. Commissioner Ilya, she came to my district this summer for an intimate invite-only parent meeting. I was denied access. You see, I was an opt-out parent. Other parents were denied access as well. So you're here to listen. Well, listen up. In the past 4 years, we've had rallies, protests, letter writing campaigns, emails, faxes, organized lobbying trips to Albany, and yet here we are again. We've gone from 10,000 to 60,000 to 250,000 opt-outs, refusals. We're a growing army. Yeah, we're an army. We are demanding the stop of Common Core. We're not going to quit. We've accepted your challenge of war. In fact, now the nation is watching us. You've declared war. Guess what? We've got stamina. And by the way, we're your boss. Our taxes are paying you. We're New Yorkers, we're parents, and we're protecting our children. You may have piles of money, political power purchased with it to dismantle our schools. We're not going to let it happen. You may have foundations, consultants, philanthropists, and now the devious, deceitful toolkit that has been given to all the districts across the state to quell the tsunami of the opposition. It's not going to work. No way. Nope. You have enormous egos and algorithms and data to twist like a statistic. We're families. We love our children, our teachers love our children, and we love them. We have passion, compassion, and integrity, and we demand the quality education that we've always had. We are not going to relent. We're the mama bears. Our claws are out, they're sharpened. Guess what? We outnumber you. We're getting more and more organized, we're educated, and we've provided for years solutions. We've done the research, and it's second to none, by the way, not even to the FBI. We're professionals, we're educators, parents, administrators, mental health experts, and even some New York State legislators that are not in the Heavy Hearts Club in the Assembly. We have a very deep interest in our children, and it's not profits. First clause, do no harm. What we have now is education malpractice. Make no mistake, you were appointed to be the water carriers, to deliver the already likely inked recommendations. Just in time for the governor's State of the State address. We're not stupid. So I ask you, are you going to be complicit co-conspirators? Are we looking at a rebrand, a tweak here, a fix there? Newsflash, Common Core learning standards are copyrighted. They even have a clause of no liability. It's a disastrous 10-year experiment. I am speaking here tonight on behalf of thousands and thousands of parents across the state of New York and across the nation. We want a full repeal of Common Core. No fixes, end it.
Good evening, my name is Rob, and I thank you for the opportunity to share some of my thoughts this evening. My role as a school board member has provided the background for what I would like to present. I'd like to begin with two questions. First, do you know the derivation of the word education for those of you that speak Latin? What it means is to draw out. So educate means to draw out. I believe our current educational philosophy is based on exactly the opposite. Pound in. Second, do you know how many different ways a person learns? Research indicates there are either 4 or 5. Does our current system begin in the primary grades by finding out which ways each child learns, and then tailor their curriculum delivery to that method of learning throughout their school experience? No. We believe in one size fits all. I would like to ask you to picture an org chart. Traditional pyramid that we've been taught in management classes. Chart has government at the top. They know what we need. Teachers in the middle, threatened because their students don't score high enough on tests provided by the top. And children at the bottom receiving an education based on a philosophy of one size fits all. It's a much different result if you turn the chart upside down. Children at the top receiving instruction based upon the ways they learn best. Teachers in the middle delivering quality educational curriculum based upon serving their students' academic needs. And government at the bottom, supporting the process and making sure teachers get what they need. And by the way, the last area requires a major focus on rewriting our teacher training curriculum at college levels as well. In my opinion, if you really address what the governor asked in his initial charge to overhaul the Common Core system, you can make New York State the leader in that overhaul. You can do this by creating a foundation based upon an understanding of the definition of educating, to draw out, pound in, and ascertaining which method of learning fits a student best. I believe this is where the quotes testing focus should take place, not the high stakes mess we have now. With these as our foundation, we can reestablish curriculum building processes and assessment processes accordingly. Please remember the motto of the State University of New York. At least the diploma I received says, "Let each become all he is capable of being." Focus on it, not mass production and quality assurance processes. Please don't just roll it out again. Please have the political courage to recommend turning our educational org chart upside down. Thanks. Coming down 10 years ago at the School Board Association, they used to pass out a little button. It's called "Scaling is for Snakes."
Okay. Karen Kelly.
Good evening. I see everybody being so prepared, and I'm here with my child's homework with a bunch of notes scribbled on it. So there are others who have been much more eloquent than I will be, but I am here as the parent of a 4th grader in the West Genesee School District. I have seen my child who loves to learn. I have seen him just become so discouraged by a system that does not allow him to soar. And what I see with the problem with Common Core is in the first word, common. Our children are not common. Their education should not be common. We've heard about differentiated education. I am not an educator, but I come from a family of educators. And it has been suggested to me over and over again that I speak to the teachers and have his education differentiated because he is at the upper end of the scale in terms of his abilities. I can't remember if it was kindergarten or 1st grade when I spoke about this with his math. He is phenomenal with math. And I was told he cannot go beyond what we are teaching because next year we are implementing the Common Core standards and he has to know what we are teaching right now in order to be able to do the Common Core next year. So that was my first experience with Common Core. He could not soar because of Common Core. My child knows math inside and out. He loves math. He is in 4th grade and he is sick to death of circles and hash marks and boxes and number lines. He wants to do math. He knows his math facts inside and out. He doesn't understand why when he needs to multiply 12 times 4, he has to spend 5 minutes doing it. He was showing us long division recently, the way that they're teaching it. It took him 5 minutes. I took the same problem and showed him how I learned how to do it. It took me 30 seconds. He looked at me, he smiled, and his face lit up, and he wanted to learn more about how to do it that way. Common Core does not allow for children to reach their full potential. My child is not for sale. My child's education is not for sale. My child needs to be taught curriculum that is developed by educators and not by corporations and not by politicians. Give teaching back to the teachers.
Eloquently spoken, by the way.
Good evening. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you tonight. While I appreciate the fact that you're both taking notes, I would like to make sure that there's an actual record of everyone's testimony here tonight. So I would encourage everyone to seek out, if you're not already a part of Stop Common Core in New York, because they are asking everyone to submit their written and video testimony so that they can compile it, so there is a record of everything that was said. Going forward, I want to say that I'm a parent of 2 school-age children. I am not claiming to have the answers, but at least I recognize that because I'm not an educator, I'm not qualified to bring you the specific answers. That doesn't mean I can't comment on the problems. As for the specific issues that I see with Common Core, I could go on for hours, but I tried to trim this down because I'm only given 3 minutes, now 2. There are the assessment tests, yes. They are not the only thing, but they certainly are a major part of it. Number 1, my children will never take a test for anyone that I am not able to review in its entirety. The test questions and my children's answers and what was marked right and wrong. Never, ever, ever. Number 2, the tests are flawed from the age-inappropriate questions to the answers that even adults can't agree on, right on through to the floating cut marks that are set after the test is taken just to prove someone's prediction and to meet their agenda. Number 3, results that don't come back until August and only come back with a grade of 1, 2, 3, or 4 are of such minimal use that I am not going to have my kids waste days upon days taking tests, which is number 4, by the way, when those days could actually be spent learning. Number 5, not only is the concept of tying teachers' evaluations to the students' improvement in test scores an absolute absurdity, but this leads to the obvious consequence of teaching to the test. Keep in mind that these are the same tests that Governor Cuomo himself called meaningless. I could continue on about the assessment test issues, but I want to move on to other topics. Common Core, whether it's standards or curriculums, I don't really care what you call it, is ruining children's love for learning. With all of the nonfiction close reading that my children have to do, it is of no surprise to me that my children do not have the same love for school that I remember having when I was their age. How will we create lifelong learners when we suck the fun out of school for them at such a young age? My daughter was talking about her recess this year. She said she doesn't get much time for recess because they combine recess and lunch. She explained that recess is the time that they have after they eat lunch, if they have enough time. Sometimes she just gets outside and it's time to come back in. Seriously? We are expecting our children to sit still for an entire school day in a hard chair and listen and learn. And most of that learning is math and ELA. Science, social studies, art, and music just don't seem nearly as important anymore. I wonder how any of us could have sat still for that many hours back in school and still be paying attention in the afternoon. Heck, we couldn't even do it today. Last but not least is my issue with Common Core math. I've heard some say that they understand math much better that way, and it never clicked for them in school. I'm very happy for those maybe 5 out of 100 people in my own experience, and for the students today whose brains work like that. However, I just don't get why it is felt that because 5 of the people get it the Common Core way, the other 95 need to learn it that way. Also, I just can't understand why we are teaching kids math functions at a higher level before we have allowed them to master the basics and gain their confidence. If you really want to help people learn, give teachers, the professionals, the freedom to figure out which way a kid's brain operates and tailor the instructions from there. Thank you.
Daniel
Kazabinsky. I apologize right now. I have nothing prepared at all. I'm just going to wing it from my heart. And I'm not an educator. I'm just an angry parent of 2 very different children. And Common Core definitely does not fit them because one size does not fit all. I think we can call this, or the Common Core, we can call it the Bill Gates experiment, basically. Because it's an untested, untried, unknown. That's all it is. And he's just forced the money down, all the needy districts that need the money, and they're accepting it, opening their arms for that money. But we got to remember something about Bill Gates. He's made all his billions, hundreds of billions of dollars, based on a capitalistic world. Now he's closing his arms to capitalism. He's embracing socialism. The big thing, what I feel is the biggest flaw of the Common Core is there's an underlying element here that most people don't know about, most people don't even want to see. They're creating dumb minions. They don't want them to know nothing. History was mentioned about how much we're teaching or how little we're teaching about the history of our country. There's a reason for that. Dumb people are easy to control. What this country was based on, built on, they do not want our children to know it. They're going to separate. Oh, I can go in a little different direction. The liar that's running for the White House, Hillary Clinton, she wrote a book. It takes a village to raise children. I agree with that theory, it does. She also states the most important person in that village is the family, the parents. Right now, Common Core is separating the children from the parents because what they're learning, how they're learning, and our morals is not being translated to them. So they're doing it for a reason to totally separate us from them. The basis of our country is being torn away from us with our children. The final thought about it is, kind of lost where I'm going. Sorry, I hate public speaking. Yeah. Well, in a socialistic world, they want to take the knowledge out of everybody. They didn't teach slaves to read for a reason. Dumb people are very easy to control, and that's what I think they're doing with our children. They're not going to have the basis of what our country was. They're not going to understand the ability to stand up, speak their mind, and tell the people in charge of this country that they work for us. That's the way it's supposed to be, and they're not going to know that. They want that for a reason. That's the basis of Common Core, the way I believe it. Thank you.
Kate Ferrara.
Good evening. My name is Kate Ferrara. I also am not fair. But I just want to start with a personal story. I am a retired special education teacher. I also have a grandson of 14 who has Tourette's with OCD, ADHD, and also on the autistic spectrum. I have been acting as his special resource teacher last year because he can't be given anything other than 504, which can be adhered to or not. Funding, I think, is the basis of that. Last year, he scored high grades and he made honor roll. For the last 2 years that he has taken the Common Core state tests, he scored 2. On that point, I rest my case. I don't think it takes a magician or an expert to see how that test destroys everything and everybody. I also want to say that I think Common Core has destroyed any joy in teaching. A good teacher teaches from the heart. They're allowed to create. They're allowed to share their hearts with their students, to put their whole self into their teaching, and the students respond. The students learn. This doesn't happen when a teacher has to teach from a set of pre-prepared or pre-prepared material. It doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. When I was in training, I think one of the things that I was taught was that learning is most effective when it's fun. A child cannot sit in a classroom day after day, hour after hour, being fed all these facts and be a happy student. My grandson spends hours at night doing his homework. He also cannot understand, as we've heard before, some of the ridiculous ways that math is being taught. And we have the same issues at home as the mother who did actually speak eloquently. What I also would like to know is that everyone that is attached to the Common Core Task Force, how many have actually been in the classroom? Oh, I know. All right. Sorry.
Dan Romeo?
I think I'm the first millennial to go, so mine's on my phone. So I have a number of issues with Common Core, but many of the people that spoke tonight have covered a lot of those issues. 1 week ago tonight, I was elected to the Syracuse City School District Board of Education. Tonight I speak on behalf of myself. I ran for the Board of Education to support education, teachers, and our students. The Syracuse City School District faces a number of unique challenges. Over 50% of our students live in poverty. We are an epicenter for refugees, and many of those students are working very hard to learn the English language. But as an example, there was a 3rd grade student who had just arrived in the United States from Burma. His first day of school just so happened to be the first day of testing. I don't think his grade on that test reflected the teacher's efficiency or abilities. Like many other districts, we are underfunded, and we are working very hard to do our best for our children. However, there is only so much that we can do. Tying student test scores to effectiveness of teachers and districts has put underfunded urban districts under attack. I challenge you to listen and truly work for change. Change that is based on what is best for children, not what is best for politicians or private companies. Since I do have a minute and a half left, I'll talk from personal experience. I have a nephew who is severely disabled, and he goes to school in a community engagement classroom. I'm close with his teacher because she's wonderful to us. She helps us in and out of school. But she is unable to become an effective teacher or highly effective because her students can't pass the Common Core state testing. I feel bad for her because she works tremendously hard, but tying teacher evaluations to test scores has pretty much ruined her perception of how well she does. Thank you.
I'm Mary Petrolis. I'm an English teacher at Fayetteville Manlius High School. I'm a vice president of the Fayetteville Manlius Teachers Association, and I'm the parent of 2 public school kids. I'm also a product of public schools. My parents were public school educators. My dad was an immigrant. My mom came from the working class, and public education brought them into the middle class. They ended up giving back, like so many people who become teachers. Their parents were teachers. They were inspired by teachers. Really, public education is a great equalizer, or at least it used to be. My first public school teaching job was in Champaign, Illinois. I moved here from Champaign. And while I worked in the school district there, it was a really vibrant university community. My high school was a 2-time blue ribbon winner for excellence. Soon after I started teaching there, it's when reform came into education, we hired a superintendent until it was found to be a fraud. Our school district, just as I was leaving, just was falling apart. Teachers were leaving. Within a few years of my departure, the high school went from being a blue ribbon school to being on a watch list. That's what corporate funded reform does. And our governor is very cozy with the reformists who profit from Common Core implementation in the state. He is very cozy with Eva Moskowitz. He's very cozy with the charter school movement. He's funded by hedge fund managers. Until very recently, all but one of the regions sent their kids to private schools. They were not trained public school educators, and they were advised by the Regents Research Fellows, which is a privately funded group. In fact, even Merrill Tisch is one of the funders of that group, privately funded. They all get $189,000 a year to advise the regents, and they are all connected with groups that profit from privatizing education, such as the Gates Foundation. Our new commissioner in her last district, when she was superintendent, one of her big accomplishments was getting a big grant from the Gates Foundation I'm really concerned about privatizing public education when I think it's a great equalizer. And those organizations, not only are they profiting from over-testing our kids, but they're going to profit from it tying teacher evaluations to those tests as well, because they're trying to privatize education, especially in the Big Four districts. Thank you for hearing us.
I'm actually from Utica, and I was just on my way to see my parents in Dryden, so that brought me into Syracuse. I am a teacher, but I'm also a parent. And since Common Core has started, I've been very confused. As a teacher, I've been told to individualize and diversify my instruction, which recognizes students as individuals. However, all students are expected to take the same test, and they're flawed. I also am in Utica, where we have a refugee center, and 25% of the population I teach does not speak English as a first language. The test that they are given is meaningless because the data is meaningless. Teachers are not told how their students perform in a way that's productive. They're not told at all. They're given a number. When my children were younger, I received information about the state tests that they took, that as a parent I could help them with weaknesses that they had and commend them on the strengths. So I appreciated that as a parent, and the students appreciate the feedback as well. I can't help my students if I don't know how they did on the test. Specifically, I am asked every day to do item analysis. I now have to give formative assessment because we're data-driven. Well, where's the data from the state test? How can I, I'm being asked to do something that the Common Core and the state are not doing for me. So that also leads to my confusion. I don't understand why any parent would have a child sit for 6 days or more of testing for no reason other than the state's way of evaluating a teacher. I can evaluate my child's teacher. I don't need the state to do that through a test that's designed to frustrate my child. The problem with Common Core is that it's developmentally inappropriate. It includes high-stakes testing with a test made impossible to pass. But that's okay, because the governor has said it has no bearing on the student. As an adult, if you took a test that was designed for you to struggle, I'm sure you would walk away feeling inadequate. As a parent with an education background, I spent a lot of time trying to explain to my children that state tests are designed so that only a few, if any, students could get a 100. This was always very hard for them to understand, but over time, they've just accepted it. As a teacher, I see students receiving academic intervention services, and they don't need it. Since the Common Core has begun, the scores have plummeted, but the skills haven't plummeted. Now students and parents have been told to take the test because it won't impact their grade. However, they leave out the part where the teacher's job depends on it. Parents are being told that they don't have rights and are being bullied into buying into a flawed program because no one wants to admit that millions of dollars and time has been wasted creating a developmentally flawed program. No one says anything good about Common Core to support it. They just say, don't talk against it or we'll lose our funding. Herbert Hoover once said that the problem with capitalism are the capitalists. It makes me very sad that the children in our country, our future, have become expendable and that we are willing to experiment and jeopardize the total education of a generation. Common Core is not about education, it's about money.
Martha Ventisel.
My name is Martha Van Tassel, and I'm speaking on behalf of myself, my daughter, and my 7-year-old grandson, who is trapped in this awful education system. The Common Core standards and curriculum and testing cannot be fixed. They need to toss it out, along with all of the changes to our educational system that have taken place with the race to the top and no child left behind. The standards, the curriculum, the testing, they're all child abuse. They are age developmental and psychologically inappropriate. Our children are not pawns. Our children are not learning the basics they need to make a life. We need to teach the children based on what our education system used to be in the 50s and the 60s, 70s, before our government started dictating policy and there was a profit to be made. My grandson actually hates school. Think of that. He's only 7 years old. My daughter and I look so forward to his elementary school years. We had hopes and dreams of him getting off the bus and bounding and saying, look what I made today, look what I did today, and being happy. That hasn't happened, not very often. Not once in his 2+ years. To our dismay, he begs not to go to school. He has nightmares, night terrors, because he's frightened of school. He sobs during math homework, begs to stay home on Thursdays because it's computer day and he can't get help. And worst of all, in kindergarten and 1st grade, he'd get off the bus, he'd throw his backpack on the ground, and he'd hit himself in the head because he was so frustrated. This brought me to tears, and it really pisses me off. And he would tell us that school was too hard and he felt stupid. This is a child that's only 5 or 6 years old. I hope all of you people that implemented this are proud of yourself. I congratulate you on ruining my grandchild. He now needs a psychologist for his anxiety. School should have been a joyous occasion for elementary students. There he would be learning through projects and crafts and fun and colorful worksheets. We do these things on our own. There should be parental involvement. Phoenix school system does not allow any. Parents aren't allowed into the school in our district since Common Core was implemented. Do they have anything to hide? The children on recess can't have recess because they have classwork to do. If their worksheets aren't complete, recess is taken away. There is no time for things that children need to do. It's all scripted, engaged New York curriculum. In closing, end Common Core. Let the teachers do what they can do best, teach our children. This 10-year experiment is already a failure in 3 years. Please stop it for our children's sake.
Hi, I have no designation other than Mad Mom on a mission. I'm here to represent my kids, and I've seen what they've had to go through over the last couple of years. It's obvious that the people that designed the Common Core were not teachers because it is well above the kids' capabilities for the grades that they're in. My daughter has a really hard time at times with her homework, and it's actually obvious that it's beyond my capabilities of a parent at times to even be able to help her with her homework because there are times I don't even understand it. And I am an educated, intelligent person. If I can't understand my 1st grader's homework, then there is something wrong with that curriculum. That needs to change. She has been very upset. She doesn't like school anymore. And the week before last, she spent most of the week in testing, where both her and her teacher told me many of the kids were in tears. They were crying because it was so hard. Now that should not be either. My son is in 9th grade right now. Last year he was in algebra and he is an honor student. He has excellent grades. Pretty much his algebra score all the way along was 99, 100, and he was in with a bunch of kids that were all the same honor students. They all had E's in math, in algebra, and they still, even that, they took courses to prepare themselves for the regions. They took tutoring sessions. They took practice tests. They did a ton of stuff on the weekends to prepare themselves for that test. And you know what they all got? The highest they got on that test was a 78 in his entire class. That is wrong. There were things on that test, geometry, which he's taking this year, that should not be on a test for algebra. So they didn't know. Those kids were crying coming out of that test. So the testing and the curriculum does not match up. The curriculum is above the level of the kids. That needs to change. Common Core needs to go. I refuse to let my kids take any further testing. I made them take it in the years past, but I'm not making them take it anymore. It does them no good. And what it does is basically sets them up for failure, it sets the teachers up for failure, and you are tying the teachers' evaluations to the flawed tests. So I am opting my kids out, and I won't put them through that, and I refuse to let my kids be guinea pigs for this Common Core anymore, and I refuse to let my kids make some investor rich off of their failure and the failure of their teachers. Their teachers work very hard. I have the utmost respect for what they have to put up with on a daily basis, and you should be making things easier for them to help their students rather than making it harder. So I say scrap the Common Core, start over, and have teachers give input in the making of the next curriculum. Thank you.
Almost all of the things that I was going to come up here and say have already been said, much better than I'm going to be able to say it. I'm a parent of 2 children in the West Hills Central School District. We have Cherry Road School in our district, which was a national Blue Ribbon school in 2013. I'm also a faculty member at this college, so I think I have a pretty good grasp on what I'd like students to come to college knowing. What I'm seeing is an inappropriate level of material in my kids' classes. There is too much teaching to the test, and the teachers are being forced into that because of the high stakes. Instead of teaching critical thinking or trying to encourage it, they're just teaching to the test. I want to seek a mastery of grade-appropriate material, not material that's 1 or 2 grade levels beyond where they should be at that point. I am all for meaningful assessment. I'm a college teacher, and that's what we do. But we do it internally. New York State trusts us to write learning outcomes that are valid and to assess them. We have oversight, but we're doing it ourselves in-house. Why can our schools not be trusted to do the same? There is no closing the loop with the assessment data right now. The data is collected, aggregate data is sent back that there is nothing to be done with, and it has no value. It's really data collection for the sake of data, and our children are the victim of that. So again, I value true assessment. Let our schools and our teachers do that. And I've been refusing the test for my kids for years now, because it's the right thing to do. And one last quick point, in a work day, we work. We're entitled to breaks. My kids get fewer minutes of break in a school day than we are mandated to have in a work day in the state. How is that?
Hello. I came here tonight not intending to speak, but after listening to all of the parents, I'm very, very sad about what's happening in your schools. I'm a teacher, I'm a 30-year teacher at FM schools. I was 19 years as a gifted teacher, teacher of the gifted elementary K-4, and I'm a 3rd grade teacher right now. And I'm sorry to say that I do believe we need common standards. I don't agree that every standard as written is grade level appropriate. It is not. They need to be revised. But for years, I've had kids move into my room from other schools in my district, other schools in the county, other states, and their learning is all over the place, and it takes them a whole year to catch up from where they came from. So common standards, what kids have to learn, that's one thing, that's one part of it, and we can look at those standards and change them if we need to, which we do. But I think what's changed the culture and the equation is tying these stakes, tying these standards to the tests. When the standards first came out, we read them, we studied them, and we thought, oh, these aren't so bad, they're fine. We can do this with our kids. Main idea, details, setting, plot, all those things are things we've always taught. But when we saw the tests as designed by Pearson, and the way that our kids had to sit for 70 minutes and be handed a booklet and a bubble sheet, they don't even know what a number 2 pencil is in 3rd grade. And the tests require kids to look back and forth and analyze paragraph after paragraph. It's the tests that are the problem, and the fact that my rating system and the rating system of all my colleagues are based on a 3-day test changes the way you look at what you want to do with your kids. You don't want to take the chances that you might normally take because it's not only your rating, but it's the rating of all the people in your team and your grade level. So if I had to say, I have another point, but if I had one thing to say, please don't make special education kids take these tests. We do differentiate. I differentiate every day for every child in my class, and then when it comes time to take the test, it's one size fits all, and those kids have IEPs. They're evaluated on their goals. They don't need to take this. We don't need them to suffer through these tests. Thank you.
I am the last member, I believe.
Now we have
I heard about this meeting this morning on the news, and I naively came because I was afraid there weren't going to be enough people here. I have to say that it was amazing to listen to all of you, and I hope this works out really well for you and your children. I cannot put a candle to what they've said. I do want to say that for a society to be healthy, it needs to cherish 2 things: its teachers and its children. And Common Core is wreaking havoc with both. Nothing is more important than the confidence of a child. Any system that kills the confidence of children is horrifically wrong.